Hello everyone, welcome to the last part of Volume 4 of Fate's Strange Fake. I have really been enjoying this one. Again, it's just really interesting stuff every time. Yeah, it's because there's a million references. That's part of it. But it's also just like, I'm really enjoying this. This feels like one of the most interesting Grail Wars ever. It's kind of peak. Anyways, we're at Chapter 13. At last, a second and a third. Now, I have no idea what this is referring to, but I'm sure we'll understand as we read the chapter. All right. 10 p.m. Snowfield Central Church. Snowfield Central Hospital was on the opposite side of Crystal Hill, the city's largest casino from the police station. The church stood a short distance from it. Despite the short history of the city, it had a majestic appearance. As a result, the church was usually thronged with devout believers and sightseeing visitors. At present, however, it became a space that no ordinary person would think of approaching. A ward was set to keep the crowds away. Inside, a priest who remained in the church after dark spoke with a wry smile. "I don't suppose you've come here to seek sanctuary. I've been wanting to needle that chief of yours, though." A priest distinguished by his eye patch, Hansa Cervantes. 4 nuns were deployed around him. They were not dressed for combat, but they were wary of their visitors and ready to fight in their habits at any time. We actually do have the art for them in the anime. I might use that in the thumbnail because it's good bait. Dang. We also, I saw this last time because I used this in the last part. We already have the anime art for Sigma, which is wild because, like, I watched that episode. I don't think he's in it. At least I'm pretty sure he's not, like the latest episode. So they just revealed him early, I guess. And also it totally spoils Francesca being Prelati. So wow, that's pretty bad. Good thing we read it instead. Anyways, that was only natural. It was Vera and about 25 other members of Clan Calatin who appeared in the church. The chief remained with the several members at the station, issuing orders, but he proposed to use the church as part of their operation against the hospital. "I understand the circumstances, but do you honestly believe I'll give my permission?" "We are not requesting support," Vera answered the confused-looking Hansa. "As far as our operation is concerned, we would like you to shelter one person here. The unconscious master whose servant remains active. Naturally, I'm in favor of giving her sanctuary as an overseer, as a priest and as a person, but only if she intends to withdraw from the Grail War. In this case, that depends on whether or not you can negotiate with her servant. Am I wrong?" "No. Depending on the circumstances, I believe it may come to eliminating the servant by force. In that case, we will not seek your assistance, as events will exceed your purview as overseer." "I see. I've got a feeling I'm being tactfully used, but, well, I suppose that's what being overseer is all about." Hansa shrugged. Then he noticed the young man staring intently at him from beside the police officers. "By the way, who's he? He doesn't look like a cop." At that, the young man in question, Flat, stepped hurriedly forward. "Oh, pleasure to meet you. My name's Flat. I'm Berserker's master, and I'm cooperating in this matter. I look forward to working with you, Mr. Overseer." "Oh, at last a master who acknowledges me as overseer. Hansa Cervantes. The pleasure is mine." Hansa laughed self-mockedly. Flat surveyed him from head to toe and asked, excuse me if this is rude, but didn't you have a fight in the police station parking lot the day before yesterday, Mr. Cervantes? Your body's about 70% machine, right?" "Oh, you can tell." "Yes. The flow of magical energy is geometrically altered here and there, and I don't understand it, so I figured it was probably mechanical." "Wow, it's nothing like Rongo's or Toko's puppets. The fact you just call her Toko?" "Well, that reveals who you talked to on the boat, probably." "Amazing! I've never seen a cyborg before. Can you shoot a rocket punch? Maybe a drill?" Hansa shook his head at the young man, who had seen through his body's peculiarities. "My fists don't fly off, and the drill's a secret. One of my arms stretches up to 3 meters, though, and it can launch grenades, too. And just between us, I've got a consecrated chainsaw in my leg. I'm deeply impressed. I'd like to shake your hand if you don't object to a clock tower mage." Sure, you've got good taste. If you get tired of magecraft, convert to the Holy Church. Oh, wait, I kind of like him. The mage of the clock tower and the executor of the church, who ought to have been bitter enemies, smiled at each other in mutual approval and exchanged a firm handshake. This is crazy, because it's just like they're both like mechas, or well, I guess cyborgs in this case, and they just shook hands. Ignoring the bewildered police officers, the nuns who stood ready in two-man cells whispered to each other. Father Hans is tipping his hand to a mage. Is that all right, do you think? Also, one thing I learned, all the nuns refer to him differently. Like, they all have different names for Hansa. That's interesting. He's always like that. There's no point worrying. Hansa's like a kid deep down. Somewhere dark. Bastelot, having abandoned his own workshop in the factory district, was standing by in a spare base prepared by the Scratio family. Before his eyes, the communicator in the form of a Luigi board began to move. Picking out I know how to say it. I was making a meme. Picking out letters of the alphabet to form sentences. Bastelot confirmed the message's contents, then addressed the darkness without a hint of an expression. Alcides, can you move? In the darkness, Alcides materialized, and rich magical energy coursing through every inch of his frame spoke. Of course. I've got word from a rat in the police. We're going to the hospital. Then he issued an order to Alcides in a voice that was, as usual, devoid of emotion. The time has come. I need you to take care of a kid. Oh. Will he be able to do it? I see. There was no visible sign of hesitation. Bastelot was satisfied with Alcides' attitude. For that very reason, however, he voiced a doubt that had occurred to him. It may seem a bit late to ask, but you withdrew awfully obediently, even if there was no downside to Castor's deal. I thought you'd kill that goddess at any cost. Bastelot, having used up all his command seals, had no way to stop Alcides. He had been prepared to sacrifice the deal for that reason when, to his surprise, Alcides had put away his bow. That was no god I know. From a different place, you mean? Still, her essence must be about the same. No, I don't mean that. That was neither an original nor an avatar. It's probably something like a shout seared into another's personality. An irritating curse that has crossed ages. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So it's not like a demi-servant or pseudo-servant sort of thing. Like, it's just I always get them mixed up. It's a pseudo-servant I'm thinking of. But it's something else. Okay. And it's not a terminal, right? Alcides began to walk toward the exit of the temporary workshop, coolly adjusting his equipment. I despise the gods, but the maledictions they leave behind are secondary. I will deal with them eventually, but not before that demigod who calls himself the King of Heroes. That's all. Bastelot fixed his piercing stare on Alcides' back and presented the job's merits for his servant. If things go well, there will be far fewer uncertainties when you face the King of Heroes. You'll also need to be able to defame the gods who took everything from you. You'll also be able to defame the gods who took everything from you all you want. With his back still turned, the bowman expressed dispassionate agreement with his master's words. It goes without saying, I exist only to drag their names through the mud. That's pretty good. That's pretty solid. Anyways, the church rooftop. Part of the central church's roof was a level rooftop. It formed a space where one could view the stars, part of the night skyline, and the beautifully ornamented bell tower. There, Flat, waiting his orders, let out a sigh of relief. Thank goodness. Things worked out somehow. We have your teacher to thank for that, Jack, in the form of a wristwatch, responded. The conclusions he stated to the chief of police and his skill in the negotiations afterward can only be called magnificent. Jack had only watched from the sidelines, while Lord Elmoy II had, like an armchair detective, made a sense of the situation in the city without ever actually being there. Oh, frick, that's cool. The girl was likely possessed by her servant, with which she had possibly formed a contract in her deep psyche or in a dream. From that fact that she was afflicted with bacteria created by the Kuraokas, Elmoy II conjectured that the heroic spirit she had summoned was related to pathogens, or possibly a being that had been treated as a symbol of sickness itself in an era that lacked the concepts of bacteria or viruses, that the abnormalities breaking out in the city might be brought about by the highly unique action of bacterial magecraft capable of deliberately selecting targets to infect. After that, he had conducted various negotiations with the chief. It could be said that he, while remaining in England, had penetrated behind the masterminds of the Snowfield Holy Grail War. No one in the clock tower can beat the professor at investigation negotiation without using magecraft, although it seems tough when the other side mixes in threats. A lot must have happened in the past. Vlad rested his elbows on the edge of the rooftop and began to talk nostalgically. The clock tower is such a pain with factions and things. That sort of thing looks inefficient to me, so I don't really understand it. The professor handles himself well and makes his opponents look good too, all while saying how ridiculous it is. Apparently, he even had a lot to deal with when he took charge of me. Having said that, Flat paused briefly before addressing Jack. I hope the girl in the hospital survives. So do I. Jack agreed, then suddenly asked a question. Something's been worrying me. What is it? Why are you trying to save that girl? Why? Flat hesitated, unable to immediately answer that fundamental question. You certainly have an unmage-like gentle nature. I can understand you hating to kill a girl for the sake of a Grail War. Still, when you go so far to expose yourself to another master, your natural enemy, I wonder if you might be a little too detached from the feelings of an ordinary person as well. Well, if someone's in trouble, helping them is only not natural. Well, to some extent, maybe, but that certainly is a natural master. People aren't that strong. If they become strong, they must have a reason for it. At that, Flat nodded his understanding, then continued to ponder for a while, staring up at the night sky. Gave one big nod as if he reached a conclusion, and opened his mouth. It's simple. It's because of the professor. Ah, so it was his influence. I thought so. If the professor was in my place, he'd help that girl, even if he didn't get anything in return. You're right, Jack. I don't know why, but the professor is a really strong person. To make up for his low skill with magecraft. It's not just me. Everyone in the school, even some people who hate the professor, recognize that. Flat gave a wry smile, as if ashamed of himself. They began to speak to the heroic spirit watch wrapped around his left wrist. That's a tough sentence. Then began to speak to the heroic spirit watch wrapped around his left wrist. A long time ago, I made a big mistake and caused the professor a lot of trouble. You're constantly causing him trouble from what I hear. Yes, but that time was on a different level. My friend Le Chien and I got caught by a mage called Atrim. Why is that name familiar? Why is that name familiar? It's a familiar name. I'm Googling it. Atrim Fate. Oh yeah. Dude. I always forget about Atrim Galliasta. I always forget about him. This is the freaking guy from Stay Night, the original caster's master. I always forget about him. He might be the single most forgettable character from the original Fate Stay Night. Because not only does he not really appear in Fate Stay Night, like, yeah, he appears in like Unlimited Blade Works, the anime, but like his appearance in the original Stay Night is literally faceless. Like, you just hear about him, you don't know much about him, and he's gone. Like, he's a posthumous character. So yeah, I was pretty sure we were going to die. Flat, who casually discussed his own death, continued with a self-mocking grin. But the professor took a big risk and saved us. He even put an important tool for seeing his precious friend, something he wants to see even if it takes him his whole life, on the betting table. Okay, so that's obviously the part of his cape, right? Of Iskandar's cape. A tool for meeting someone. An idea struck Jack at that odd phrase, a catalyst for summoning? The friend this professor wanted to see was probably the same as Jack himself now was, a heroic spirit he had encountered in the Holy Grail War. In that case, that catalyst had value that no one else could ever hope to measure up to. If he had put that on the betting table for the sake of his students, then he really must have had a screw loose to be Flat's professor. Well, Jack thought, Flat, who had came to a conclusion after his own fashion, went on while flashing the occasional lonely smile. If this ended up just being my problem, I'd abandon the girl for my goal. I'd even take the initiative and kill her like an ordinary mage. But before I'm a mage of the Escardos family, I'm Flat Escardos of the Elmalloy School. The Elmalloy School. The instant Flat spoke that name, the tinge of loneliness vanished from his face and he blurted out in a voice bursting with confidence. Since I've been in that school, my life has stopped being just my problem. Abandoning that girl now would mean betraying the professor and everyone at that school. To me, that's scary. As scary as losing my goal as a mage. I see. If you say it's because you're afraid, well, I've got no choice but to accept it. Next, Flat asked Jack a question of his own. Why don't you object, Jack? As far as winning the Grail War goes, there's no need to go out of our way to save a girl, is there? You'd be dead set against it. I'd have to use a command seal, but you seem to agree pretty quickly. In response to Flat's words, Jack shook his watch hands in a manner that seemed to say, oh, that's all. Well, it's simple. I've simply been influenced by your teacher, Lord Elmalloy II, myself. When Flat had phoned Elmalloy II and received a 2-hour lecture, Jack had an opportunity for a brief conversation with the Lord. When Jack had explained his own nature as a heroic spear and that his wish for the Grail was to learn the true identity of Jack the Ripper, Elmalloy II had easily slipped into Jack's mind in a flowing dialogue, almost as like he was giving a lecture on magecraft. I believe that a person's essence is formed through their encounters with others. Who or what actually committed those murders in the 1800s London is a black box. Even within the clock tower, opinions are greatly divided. Still, I'm frankly grateful that it was a level-headed being like yourself who appeared to Flat. If that foolish apprentice of mine had any influence on you, for better or worse, I believe it would be right to say that a new facet of Jack the Ripper has undoubtedly been born. I promise to remember you, not as an urban legend or a heroic spirit, regardless of what you were in life. I promise to remember the you I am speaking with now as Flat's servant, the being who showed him the way, if only for a short time. So please, take care of my foolish apprentice of Flat. I don't have command seals or anything like that. This is just my selfish request, but please, keep him safe for me. Honestly, I know I told you this before. If we'd spoken any longer, well, he really would have had me wrapped around his finger. Whoa! Oh my god! Is Jack the Ripper falling for Lord Elmalloy? He might be some kind of incubus in human form. Oh my god, what? It all comes back to Yowie with him. Jack's still in... I gotta say, one thing I never mentioned, but because it got brought up in one of my edited videos, one of the first things I've ever seen for Fate in like a modern context, like, you know, not Stay Night, but like, you know, like the newer sort of era later on. I guess it's a little bit newer. I followed some of the artists who worked on Skullgirls, and one of them, named Artist Black, is obsessed with Iskandar and Lord Elmalloy II Yowie. And it's like, listen, I'm not into that world. I'm not. It's not, to me, it's not something that makes me feel anything. But it's really good art. Like, it is very good art. And if you're into that stuff, that's the artist to look into. But like, yeah, wow, huh. It always comes back to Yowie with him. Anyways, Jack, still in watch form, gave a wry smile at the memory. How do you do that? His words touched my heartstrings. I had my life slightly touched by him as well. That's all. At that, Flat flashed an innocent smile. That means you're a student of the Elmalloy School too, Jack. I'm sure having a serial killer would just cause trouble. Flat shook his head at Jack's obvious statement of fact. We've got an alumnus who's kind of similar. What? I'm sure we'll get to that when we get to the Elmalloy novels eventually. Flat shook his head at Jack's obvious statement of fact. Okay. I have a feeling that so I don't think it'll be a problem. I have a feeling that it definitely will. At that point, the watch, still shaking its hands in a wry smile, suddenly began to speak seriously. You're still missing something big. No, not missing. You probably hadn't realized it yourself, but there's a big gap between you and the world. It's actually frightened me at times. I mean, this is a lot. Like, again, my big question is, has anyone just considered it might be mage autism? Because that's just kind of what it feels like every time it's brought up, right? I know there's, like, probably more going on because he sees the world differently, literally. But, like, at the same time, it just sounds like mage autism. Like, listen to this, right? Let's just continue. However, Jack continued to an uneasy-looking flat. I've been reassured, not because a mage like that is your teacher, but because you feel respect for the way your teacher lives. As long as you have that feeling, you should be able to overcome your gap. I guess you're right. I don't really get it. I do sort of understand that parts of me are out of sync with mages and with regular people. Right? Like, come on. Don't worry. All people live with that feeling that something about them is out of sync with the world. I don't know if I ought to say so in this form, but there's no such thing as a clock that keeps perfect time without ever being off for an instant. There are only people trying to make their clocks match. Wow, that's really nice. Flack giggled when he heard that. Your true identity might have been a poet, Jack. Did I say something that flippant? You did. I mean, you're supposed to have signed a letter to the police from hell. You had to bring that up. They did not burst out laughing out of consideration for the victims, but Jack and Flat did grin at each other before turning their attention toward the hospital. Should start any time now. Yes, we can't clear out the hospitalized patients after all. We'll use wide area magecraft to put the patients to sleep and block the doctor's perception so they can't see the police unit storm it. Wait, something's wrong. Jack's voice drew Flat's eye. Oh no, I think I got them backwards there, but that's fine. Jack's voice drew Flat's eyes to the street in front of the hospital. He could see the police officers in the street pointing at something and panicking. Flat turned his gaze in the direction they were pointing while using magecraft to enhance his sight, and saw it. Oh, a three-headed dog. Oh, Cerberus. The size of a full-grown elephant, pale breath roiling in its mouth, and standing calmly on its back, a man wearing a strange cloth and readying a bow. Did Hercules ever deal with Cerberus? I don't know. I haven't studied Hercules' story for a while. Central Hospital rooftop, on top of a water tank. Cerberus now? Who is this? Serving was above. It's Jester. Cerberus now? Who was that bowman? Surveying the enormous beast from above was Jester Karchur, back in the form of the young vampire man. It appeared that the wounds he received from Hansa had yet to recover. The holy water burns were still fresh on the skin that peeked out through his clothes. Interesting. What other heroes and monsters are there in this Grail War? Who should I make that beautiful assassin dance with? I must focus and take my time choosing. Interesting, there's two different spellings. I see Cerberus here, and then Cerberus here, right? There's two different ones, but I think one is like the correct way, and then one is like the more popular way. Like this spelling of Cerberus is the more common way, but I think this is like the Kerberos, right, is the correct way of saying it. So I don't care. In front of the hospital, Main Street. Due to wide area wards set to keep people out, Main Street seems strangely deserted to the police officers on their beats. Farther down the street, however, something appeared to shatter that lonely atmosphere. It was a gigantic dog exhaling poisonous breath through the razor-sharp fangs of its three heads. It took officers a short while to recognize it as Cerberus, a creature they had seen in myths and movies often enough to lose interest in it. That was the extent to which the awe and fear it inspired surpassed the Cerberus of their imaginations. The air was thick with magical energy. The bowman standing on the creature's back, however, showed no sign that it fazed him. If he had a great scythe instead of a bow, anyone would have screamed, taking him for death. Nope, we're going up to another horseman instead. The gargantuan guard dog of Hades walked up to the police officers and then stopped. It lowered its heads and glared all around. Then the bowman on its back put out a question to the speechless officers in a solemn voice. Where's the child who harbors a heroic spirit? The bowman was already turning to face the hospital as he spoke. He must be asking in which part of the floor the girl was to be found. If we tell you, one of the police officers screwed up their courage and asked the bowman, what are you going to do to her? Naturally, I shall slay her in a frontal assault, in accordance with the rules of the Holy Grail War. The police officers murmured, this being whose appearance made them feel a strength, unlike that of an ordinary heroic spirit, this being cloaked in such an air of an intimidation that it made the assassin they fought the other day seem sweet, was declaring his intention to murder an unconscious little girl, fairly, in a frontal assault. Bullshit! One of the officers shouted, realizing what the words meant. His angry voice was drowned out by the roar of an explosion. The shaft the bowman had loosed by way of threat pierced the asphalt, blasting a circumference of 10 meters to smithereens and creating a small crater. A number of nearby officers were caught in the blast. Several lost consciousness on the spot. You need not answer. Just don't interfere. And the bowman pulled his arrow taut. The police officer soon realized what he was planning to do. The bowman intended to destroy the large, 10-story hospital with nothing but his bow. After seeing the crater he left in the asphalt with a warning shot, no one found the idea absurd. Then, before the police could move to stop him, he unleashed a strike from his fully drawn bow. Oh my god, he's doing it. So that's his game! Jester Karchur immediately realized the bowman's intention and destroyed the water tower beneath him with a stamp of his foot. Some power allowed him to freely control the water that gushed out and made it leap at the oncoming arrow. There was a watery explosion. Droplets scattered like fireworks around the city. The arrow missed by a fraction, scraping off part of the hospital roof then vanishing into the sky. What's wrong? Or good grief. What's wrong, police? I'll be in trouble if you don't work harder. Jester flashed a sarcastic grin and sighed as he cheered on the police force he had nearly destroyed with his own hands a few days earlier. Kuraoka Tsubaki will be safe for now if I make her one of my kind. The problem is, if I do, Assassin would hesitate to kill her. That wouldn't be any fun. When Jester was done muttering to himself, he realized a vital fact and then shook his head. No. With her strength, the girl's body might not be able to stand it. She'd die before she's changed. Some kind of demon? Alcides atop... Oh, now we're doing 3 different translations. Now we're doing Kerberos. Alcides atop Kerberos' back turns his attention to the being that had erected the thick shield of water. Seeing a man shrouded in the aura of neither a heroic nor a divine spirit, he warily descended to the ground. Kill all who stand in your way. Kerberos, the guard dog of Hades he had once captured. Well, there we go. Okay, understand. He captured it once. Now it's his. Summoned through the noble phantasm King's Order. Oh. What does that mean? Alcides issued instructions to the gargantuan beast not of this world, and carefully surveyed his enemy on top of the roof of the hospital. He readied his bow to seriously destroy the building itself. His presence is not that of a servant. It's not that of the woman who calls herself a goddess either. He's most likely some beast birthed by the planet. A man-shaped Nemean lion. Remembering the lion to which the hide that covered his own face had belonged, Alcides further heightened his vigilance. He was wondering if he should materialize anything else with King's Order, when a light impact ran across his back. Of course, it only felt light to Alcides. Properly speaking, the impact had been enough force to pierce through the body of an armored car. The thing that the Nemean lion's skin deflected was a spear hurled by one of the police officers. Damn it. Shrugging it off's not fair. This again, why? Why the hell? Are you another one of those dead apostles or whatever, you bastard? As if an answer to the officer's scream, the rest of the nearby force poured out what seemed to be ranged noble phantasms one after another. Dull. He swatted them aside with his bow. The shot he fired through the gaps between them produced another crater in the road. What is Kerberos doing? Despite the fact he had just given the order to kill, the police force's numbers showed no sign of decreasing. In fact, they seemed to be growing. What? Alcides realized there were indeed more police officers than there had been. Oh my god, is Flat using Berserker to do this? Shut up, that's kind of cool. Alcides realized there were indeed more police officers than there had been. Moreover, Kerberos was indeed doing as Alcides had ordered. There were several human bodies in each of its 3 mouths. More than a dozen officers were pinned beneath its feet, and yet they still resisted. It appeared the officers had also noticed something unusual about the scene. Hey, were those guys getting eaten? Alcides heard the confused murmurs and furrowed his brows. Then, another dozen or so officers appeared before his eyes and immediately leapt at Kerberos. They did not have any weapons that could be noble phantasms. They rushed in to challenge Kerberos with nothing but pistols and batons. It was almost like they wanted to be the first to be eaten. Absurd. There's nothing absurd about it. Alcides turned at a voice from behind him. There stood a perfectly ordinary police officer, watching countless identical others be devoured. He spoke with a grin heavy with madness. I'm originally a criminal who claimed to come from hell, a murderous fiend whose sins are beyond redemption. Being continually gnawed on by the Hound of Hades suits me perfectly. The officer squared off against Alcides as he spoke, armed with nothing but an ordinary pistol and baton against a fiend more vicious than Kerberos. I doubt it. Oh, no, that's him. I doubt it, but seeing as you're accompanied by that devil dog of the underworld, I don't suppose that Hades himself can have manifested. In an instant, dark fury shrouded Alcides. He addressed the officer in a voice thick with hate. Weakling, no matter how much mightier than yourself I appear, do not group me with those fools, the gods. If you commit the same mistake again, your reward shall be more profound than death. I hope to sound you out, the police officer replied with a fearless grin. I apologize if I committed an indiscretion. I see. It appears that you are indeed no god. If you are a relation of a god, I might have been able to force cause and effect together and force cause and effect together and become you. But it seems that I still can't. Still, I've grasped your essence. Factoring in Kerberos and your hatred of the gods, I can make a rough guess at your identity. A great hero who was denied the gods, although I suspect their blood once ran in your veins. It seemed that the officer had, by some means, probed into Alcides' spirit graph. Despite knowing Alcides' strength, the thing in the form of a police officer still leapt at him, weapons ready. Then, I shall treat you as a human, and kill you as a human. As his gesture now. It's not an illusion. What is it? Solid bodies are actually appearing and being eaten by Kerberos. Watching the scene unfolding on the street below, Jester furrowed his brows. The mystery police officer had appeared just when he was wondering whether to mount a serious counterattack or to abduct Tsubaki and make his escape. At first they made for Kerberos, identical police officers appearing one after another and keeping Kerberos' claws and mouths in a state of saturation. Now they were attacking the unnatural bowmen as well, swelling their numbers as they continued to fight. Is there a heroic spirit like that? What country's hero could it be? What am I looking at? John Wingard, member of Clan Calatin, who'd only just obtained his new prosthetic hand. What he saw was a police officer who looked identical to him. But that officer wasn't one of his comrades. He appeared around the bowman being struck down, disappearing and then appearing again unscathed and unnoticed. No matter how many times his body was twisted apart or pierced with arrows, the same officer continued to challenge the heroic spirit. Watching him, John returned to his senses. What am I spacing out for? I've got to hurry back and... He was about to run in when someone laid a hand on his shoulder and stopped him. When he turned to look, he found a man with the same face as the officer who was fighting a bowman. That's my prey. Hands off. Fall back somewhere safe. But your job is protecting Kuraoka Tsubaki. Don't waste my master's resolve. Hearing that, John understood. This man was the young man called Flat's servant. John did not know what kind of being he was. Perhaps he should leave the place to him. Just as John and the others were starting to think that, the bowman opened his mouth. "Weakling, tell me your name." At that, the officer took a step back and replied with a broad grin. "I have no name." Before they knew it, they were two of the officer. There were two. Both spoke with the same voice. "Great hero, being who lives on in myths of the age of gods, changing your form and refining your great deeds with the ages, I, who am but an insignificant criminal, have but one thing to say to you." The officers multiplied again. 4 of them now declared to be the bowmen from 4 sides. Or now declared to the bowmen, rather. "I suppose you have fitting reasons for your resolves. However, if you say that you will deny the power of the gods with it, if you try to deny and abandon all the gods' deeds, evil and good alike..." The 8 somethings had taken on a variety of forms beside police officers. Their shouts echoed on the city street. "However mighty you are now, as you wished, a human." Oh my god, are they going to say, if you're a human, then you can be killed? 16 bellows addressed the bowman's soul. "Hero who has fallen to become a rogue, to become human, no matter how great a hero you are, even if you have the power to destroy the world." Just when it seemed that 32 fearless grins ringed in the bowman, all the figures vanished, as if they had been absorbed back into the first one. "As long as your essence is human, you will fall victim to a mere powerless killer." Then, before the eyes of the police and the reddish-brown bowman, the nameless berserker, the murderous fiend Jack the Ripper, shouted the name of the noble phantasm whose release should lay bare his own essence and end the life of a great hero, "From hell!" Then, in the gap between the hospital and the church, hell on earth was made manifest. Oh my god. It can't be, can it? Is that what I think it is?" On the roof, Jester's eyes sparkled as he flashed a pleasantly surprised smile. Jack the Ripper! Jester had drawn the conclusion from the fact that the servant had called himself a killer by the name of the noble phantasm he had shouted. Looking at the world that had just begun to unfold before his eyes, Jester shouted in frustration with an ecstatic grin on his face, Oh, beautiful assassin, why aren't you here? Why aren't you seeing this with me?" He almost used a command spell and seal in spite of himself, but that desire deep in his guts allowed him to barely hold on to reason. "No, I can't waste any more command seals. No matter what, I have to save 2 to make her fall into despair and finally commit double suicide with me." When he was done moaning in apparently heartfelt regret, he turned defiant and shouted, "Then I'll burn this scene into my eyes. I'll tell her later." He went on to make the praises of Jack the Ripper resound across the hospital roof. "Oh, Jack. The world's most impure thrill-seeker. Pure demon raised by human delusions." Jack, a hematophage, went on extolling a worn-out urban legend, spreading his arms and spinning with supreme delight on his face. "You scrap of folklore that filled the night with terror despite being a powerless anti-hero. Your personification of viciousness spread throughout the world at the speeds that even the Wallachian night can't match." Hey, that's a melty blood. "No, show me. Will you crumble pitifully in the face of a true legend, or will you score a blow in the new darkness? Oh, this is what makes this world so fun. Oh, beautiful assassin, I dedicate this comical hell to you." As the hematophage shouted, a hell had manifested between the hospital and the church. A thick fog enveloped the area. The roadside trees morphed into bluish-black plants no one had ever seen before. The craters Alcides had made filled with red magma and gave off poisonous steam. Human-faced bats flew through the air. Wait, what? What are we doing? Imp-shaped flames surrounded the traffic lights. Countless illusory, sooty buildings, suggestive of London's back alleys, appeared, but there was not a person to be seen. No children stealing bread out of starvation. No one beating those children to death to take the bread. No dealers peddling narcotics. No constables taking their money. Only the figures of gremlins playing at mimicking their actions with puppets loomed up through the fog. In other words, that hell was no more than a comical puppet show. Pumpkin lanterns straight out of a fairy tale grinned under the streetlights without a shred of reality. At the same time, however, it was an embodiment of the desires harbored by people of Jack the Ripper's day. If it had been a different aspect of Jack, the scene might have been an irredeemable hell built of raw human evil. The hell Jack had made manifest on Earth in this instance, however, was the corruption of humans by the absolute evil called demons. It could be called a man-made hell, the product of a twisted wish to foist all tragedies, all human evils on the products of imagination. Mixed in with that distorted, immature hell was a single, genuine article. Alcides faced it head-on. It must have been about 5 meters tall. A raw sensuality accompanied the thing that stood atop the puppet show hell. Its skin was a toxic blue-purple, like a cross between a blueberry and a poisonous insect. What is going on? Its long, unusually developed arms ended up in glittering, saber-like claws. Long, twisted horns and sharp fangs protruded from its face, like a skull transformed into a demonic beast. The wings that spread from its back cast deep shadows all around it, fluttering like black cremation smoke. At the sight of it, Kerberos pounced. At that, the thin skin of that thing's chest swelled, and the beating of a heart that gave off a barbaric gleam resounded the surroundings. As the beat sped up, its eyes shone red. 2 rays of heat from its eyes pierced through Kerberos's body in an instant. A scream that genuinely seemed to echo from the bowels of hell escaped the 3 heads and shook the eardrums of every member of Clan Calatin on the street. That, however, was not the end of Hades' guard dog. The demonic hound had only bared more of its fighting spirit and propelled its massive frame in an effort to rend the thing with its 3 sets of claws. An instant before the fangs connected, however, the claws that the thing swung down from above cut diagonally into Kerberos's body at the shoulder, biting into entrails and spine as they bloodily shredded fur. Shredded, even. Kerberos's massive body crumpled to the ground with a low rumble. Clan Calatin stared wide-eyed. Hansa Cervantes, watching from a window of the church, scowled and murmured, "It doesn't seem like a genuine demon. A temporary existence of phantasmal species. Still, to become something that fiendish, even temporarily." Hansa pressed an eye to his eye patch and muttered to himself about the thing Flat's heroic spirit had become. That is, about that entity that most ordinary people will call a demon. If I didn't know it was a heroic spirit, I'd be calling on the burial agency right about now. We got a picture? What the frick? That is a demon? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I look at that. That's a demon. Yep. That's a demon. I am looking forward to seeing what they decide to do for the anime for that. So, it can't achieve divine beasthood without that cursed Hades blessing. Alcides spat, glancing at the fallen Kerberos. Then turned his attention back to the gigantic shadow in front of him. You said that I would die because I am human, didn't you, weakling? But is that not sort of monster you are reducing yourself to fall at humans' hands? Alcides spoke challengingly. Jack's pure white eyes, now far from human, crinkled, and he laughed. He just laughed. No, you've got that wrong, slave of the gods reduced to humanity. Seeing the demon's eyes gleam again, Alcides assumed a defensive posture. When the attack came, however, it was from a total blind spot, out of the sky behind him. He turned as a ray of light pierced the top of his shoulder and saw a demon, identical to the one in front of him, flying through the air. Humans do not slay us. Humans are the fools, the sages who create us, no more than cannibal prey. At the same time, The swooping claw of yet another demon drove Alkides' body deep into the street that had become the paving stones of hell. Then, the true hell began. When Alkides, driven into the ground, saw, when he raised his eyes to the sky, was a great army, tens, hundreds strong, of the enemy heroic spirit that had become a demon looking down on him. Jack the Ripper's noble phantasm, evil fog perishes with the London dawn from hell, materialized rumors that Jack's true identity was a demon from hell as an ability. Oh wow, okay, that's kind of crazy. The theory had grown separate from the phrase "from hell" in a letter said to have been written by Jack himself, when it spread to the countryside where superstitions were more deeply held than in urban areas. Oh, that's interesting. Whoa. Anecdotes that Jack the Ripper was a demon or possessed or a devil worshipper put down deep roots. Having used its power to become a demon, Jack had added the other noble phantasm he possessed. Oh, that's really interesting. Wait, that's super interesting. That this aspect is like the version of him from Countrysides that has like more demons. Oh, that's super interesting. Anyways, his other noble phantasm. That is not worth the end of tragedy. Natural born killers. Oh! Jack the Ripper was not a single person, but a group. It was a noble phantasm built of such anecdotes. It incorporated a wide variety of elements. Oh, well, that explains why he could make a bunch of versions of himself. I was wondering about that. That's cool. It incorporated a wide variety of elements, from idle speculation that Jack's crimes were all committed by unconnected people, no one in the world can be Jack the Ripper, to the theory that it was a ritual performed by a religious cult, which had gained force at the time. The maximum number of people varied based on the strength of the Master's magical energy. While great, paired with Flatus Scardos, it was confirmed to be capable of dispersing into a maximum of 520 at a time. Whoa! Such numbers were, of course, impossible with both noble phantasms deployed simultaneously, but it easily reached over 200 demons, all attacking the human Alkides. The next series of blows assailed Alkides, standing on the ground before he could even begin to act. They hit hard, most importantly because, as they were not delivered with weapons, the power of the Nemean lion's hide had no effect on them. Oh! Its inherent toughness prevented it from being torn to shreds, but a portion of the attack still pierced it, so that the claws and heat reached even Alkides' guts. The ceaseless rain of blows no longer permitted him to do so much as stand. If there was such a thing as the pains of hell, it was certainly his current predicament. The police officers looking on thought so. They held their breaths, even forgetting to be afraid. To the audience, the sight of the absolute strength wheeling through the air overwhelming a different strength even seemed to have been a kind of beauty. Hey, did they get him? Actually, is it really okay to have those things on our side? Some of the officers muttered, wiping cold sweat. Could it really be controlled? Where was its master? Flat. Having grown uneasy, they looked to the roof of the church, but there was no sign of Flatus Scardos there. That further excited their terror. None of them could speak. Would that bowman even be recognizable by this time? No sooner had someone thought that, than a change appeared in the situation. Impressive. As his low but caring voice reverberated in the surroundings, Alkides exposed himself to the claws of the airborne demons in the center of the pulverized asphalt. The claws bit into Alkides' shoulder with a dull thud. It seemed to onlookers that it could easily have been a mortal wound. Alkides, however, pinned the arm of the gigantic demon whose claws were eating into him and seized one of its fangs with his free hand as it tried to bite him. The other demons launched a simultaneous heat ray attack, but Alkides did not release his grip. Then, he commended the hero he had deemed worthless. He spoke words of heartfelt praise, acknowledging that the modern serial killer without so much as a scrap of divinity was indeed a worthy foe. Impressive, weakling. You've done well to corner me. You've done well to climb this high. What are you? The demon Jack spoke, perhaps in response to an unpleasant premonition. Alkides, however, ignored him and continued. What you have built does indeed have value. I could counter with 9 lives, but your power is too valuable to merely defeat. Oh no, what is he doing? Unknown killer. Oh no, I will usurp you with respect. You are worth stealing. What does this mean? Then, the Avenger activated his noble phantasm. Neither 9 lives nor King's Order. His hidden third noble phantasm, because of course, activated by his being warped into the Avenger class. Regeneration. Pandora. That instant, fate, hope, and despair all changed places. In an instant, the swarm of demons flitting through the air transformed into a crowd of powerless humans. The innumerable Jacks, having lost the power of flight, plummeted to the earth. Impossible. The Jack whose claws had been buried in Alkidi's shoulder had reverted the form of an ordinary police officer. That sight that met his eyes was Alkidi's, with the same horns that Jack... Oh no. With the same horns that Jack had sported until a moment before poking from under his cloth. Oh my god, he can just steal servant powers. Is this the most broken servant of all time? He's so dark and edgy and can steal their powers. This sucks, but is awesome. Alkides with the same horns that Jack had sported until a moment before, poking out from under his cloth. Wings like black smoke sprouting from his back, and most importantly, shrouded in magical energy several times stronger than his had been thus far. That's so broken. What the frick? Jester Karchur, having witnessed the events from beginning to end, wiped any trace of a smile from his face. Wearing a look of deep wariness that he had not shown even when he had seen a clash between the King of Heroes and Enkidu, he muttered, "A noble phantasm that steals another's noble phantasm." Despair ruled Main Street. The scene that met Hans's eyes as he peered out from the church was the reverse of what it had been moments before. Standing before Jack, who had gone back to being human, was a fiend who abandoned divine power and had now ceased to be human. Although to borrow Jack's words, it was certainly something humans had made. Probably simply taking warped human despair into him, which made him nothing but human, no matter how much his shape changed. Hansa pondered such questions while sipping the canned coffee that had appeared unnoticed in his hands. Because the areas around the hospital's water tower was in a blind spot from his window, he had yet to realize that the hematophage he was pursuing was in the hospital. Even so, he was on the highest possible alert. "I see," he muttered, narrowing his eyes. "So this is the Holy Grail War, a battle between heroic spirits. Oh, well, no wonder Father Kotomine is with God now. I'd better prepare myself for a lot, too." I don't think he's there. "You stole my power?" Berserker's faint voice echoed futilely down the street. His hell had vanished before anyone knew what was happening. Its presence now surrounded Alkides. "Hate me if you like," Alkides answered, looking down at Berserker, who lay on the ground, his power spent. "I'm used to being called, accursed as an usurper." Perish the thought. Isn't usurpation by a hero called a legend? Scathing. There are no heroes. The only one... Wait. I'm used to being cursed as an usurper. Yeah, so then he says that. The only one here is a detestable fiend who's about to strangle a child. I was going to say. So a bit confused here. But no, he's calling himself out. When he had finished his forceful declaration, Alkides picked up the unscathed bow that had fallen beside him. He spoke reluctantly as he nocked an arrow. "Farewell, great killer. It was a good contest. I never imagined that I would bring so much power to bear against a human opponent." "I don't know if you'd call me a human in that form. Appearances are trivial. I don't even know your name, but I promise to engrave at least our battle into my memory." Jack lay silently on the ground, and awaited his end. It's ironic. I never dreamed that my current self would be acknowledged by friend and foe alike. Oh, come to think of it, Master was the first to acknowledge me. Something about mysterious entities being cool. Honestly, that Master of mine. Alcides loosed his taut bow at Jack, whose face was covered in a wry smile. An instant before the arrowhead reached Jack's heart, he vanished without a trace. Oh, I see. I suppose my master is the only one foolish enough to have used up his command seals at this point. Oh, okay. So we used it to get him away. Woo! I was going to say, I don't want him to go. Forced transportation by command seal. Alcides slowly surveyed his surroundings, impressed by the judgment of the master who saved his servant by a hair's breadth. The only ones left were the police officers, each of whom carried a weapon that seemed to be like a noble phantasm. They had been dazed at first, but they seemed to remember their duties, because one and then another of them readied their weapons and inched towards Alcides. Noble phantasms. I don't know how you assembled so many, but I'll test their worth. Piercing animosity welled up from every inch of Alcides' body. Earlier, he had considered the police force trivial. After the battle he had just experienced, however, he could not bring himself to scorn them as mere humans or to ignore them. It was a fact that the police officers, who were no more than ordinary humans with noble phantasms, were standing against him. They were hardly without fear. They were striving to conquer it and stand firm in the face of death, in the death that Alcides was. Courage. You have a better look in your eyes than Calais or Zetes. Probably references to Greek myth. No sooner had he readied his bow with a rare, good-spirited grin, intent on slaughtering the officers with his full power, than the one who was to return his mood to nothing swooped down from high. Who's this gonna be? Oh! Ringing peals of laughter resounded along Main Street. The officers and bowmen looked up and saw a golden archer. The King of Heroes watched the horned and winged Alcides with an ear-to-ear grin. This is a new one. I can hardly describe it. You have grown rather handsome, mongrel. Mongrel or not, to assume so disordered a form. He stood atop the church's belfry, shut up, that's really cool, and spoke in his usual tone while looking down on the whole road below. I came in the hope that some unusual scenery was being created, and you are entertaining me quite ably. You may have the makings of a clown, after your fashion. It seemed that he had noticed the commotion while on the roof of Crystal Hill and decided to view the scene on the ground. The police had learned that he was on the top floor of Crystal Hill because they had planned to operate in secret not only from the King of Heroes but everyone. He had apparently been entirely out of their minds. So, you've come, mighty king. Alcides grinned broadly and drew his bow, heedless of his opponent's provocation. Then, just as he was about to activate King's Order afresh, a new intruder appeared on Main Street. Hello! What's going on here? Who's this? A carefree voice came from the shadow of the church. Oh, it's Saber. When they turned their eyes in its direction, the police saw a familiar face. They had not exactly made a flashy entrance. In fact, they arrived too normally. One of them was Saber, his red-streaked blonde hair fluttering in the wind. Alcides froze warily. The King of Heroes glanced in their direction, but presumably took no particular interest because he said nothing. At the sight of the heroic spirits, the craters in the grounds, and the fallen police officers, Saber addressed the baby-faced soldier beside him. This doesn't look like what you told us. Wasn't this supposed to be a covert operation? The soldier, Sigma, remained expressionless and responded dispassionately. The situation changed while we were en route. That's all. I see. Well, nothing we can do about that. As the heroic spirit and the soldier carried on their mundane conversation, the hooded woman assassin appeared unostentatiously behind them. The police frowned at that, but someone on the roof of the hospital had a different reaction. Hey, who are they? Sensing destiny in Assassin's appearance in this place, Jester Kartur was on the verge of shouting for joy when his eye fell on the two men close at her side. He erased all trace of expression from his face as he glanced at the pair. Why are they with my assassin? Pure rage filled the hematophage's icy glares. He continued, and why is my beautiful assassin's body not tainted by my magical energy? Are you alright, Jack? I'll perform a healing spell right away. In the square behind the church, Jack chuckled, sensing the gathering heroic spirits and ignoring the flustered flat. It was not only the bowmen. Heroic spirits he had yet to see were strutting on the stage of the city, each struggling for a legend. While finding humor in the fact that an urban legend such as himself was among their number, he muttered self-deprecatingly, with one last gleam of hope still deep in his eyes. I see. I did indeed come from hell. Still, this place might be a mild hell itself. And, a little behind them, yet one more heroic spirit made for Main Street in front of the hospital. Despite the fact it was his first time going out since his summoning, he swaggered down the center of the road with an air of total familiarity. For God's sake, don't make an author do manual labor, Alexander Dumas grumbled as he drew steadily nearer to the hospital. Naturally, the chief of police was unaware of this fact. If he had known, he would have definitely recalled Dumas by command seal. The chief, however, had his hands full with his subordinate's dangerous situation and had not gotten around to considering Dumas's activities. It was, oh my god, I just saw some words that make me happy! It was precisely because Dumas knew that he was heading to the situation. Let me try that again. It was precisely because Dumas knew that he was heading to the scene on his own feet. He halted at a distance from which he could observe the whole situation from afar, however, and did not advance farther. Instead, with his usual fearless grin on his face, he spread open a scroll that had appeared unnoticed in his hand. If I want my actors to show courage, I guess I should... Oh, wait, no, he had the bada bing voice. If I want my actors to show courage, I guess I should revise the plot a bit. Then, spotting the officer with the prosthetic hand, John, in the distance, he grinned from ear to ear. I'm not gonna let you end up as bit parts. It's guys like you who ought to be heroes. Oh my god, yes. Muttering to himself, he began to write a story on the scroll. A present to his favorite actors in place of a modest bouquet. Musketeers, masquerade. While even the actors themselves remained ignorant of what the story meant, the curtain was quietly but surely rising on the next act of the tragicomic play. Bridge, one day above the sky. Oh. Bro, oh my god. Okay, so basically, he turned those officers who went to him into the musketeers, right? Because you have the 3 musketeers, and then you have the extra one, because there's the 4th one, right? And then I guess, because wasn't there 5 of them? I don't know. They'll do something. They'll figure it out. Shut up. That's so good. One day above the sky. Day 3. Okay, so we're going to the day after this has happened. Okay, we're jumping ahead a bit. Which I think Bridge isn't this the one that is basically, yeah, it's just saying like, this is the preview for next time. Okay, I like this idea. So we're saying this is the day after. Okay, day 3 in the morning. Next, the weather. Following up on the low pressure system that was formed in western Las Vegas, the usual news flowed out of the TV. The townspeople were heading to their respective jobs, alternately pleased and worried by the upcoming weather. The city of Snowfield was not yet in a state of panic. Valdius was mostly satisfied with that outcome. He could cover up most disturbances himself and had confirmed that he could suppress larger-scale incidents to some extent with Francesca's help. How to deal with the incident at the hospital last night. The assassin should be setting to work assassinating Galvaroso right around now. Such matters occupied Valdius' thoughts when a secret communication arrived on his personal channel. It was not... Boy, what are we doing? It was not from inside Snowfield. It was from a special bureau in Washington. The true masterminds who were backing him up. I think we might have been told this, but I forgot that he is literally backed by the United States government fully. Like, I mean, you hear that, but then you read the words from Washington and you're like, oh right, there's actually them. Valdius here. What is it, General? Have you seen the news? The solemn voice of the man he called General prompted Faldius to turn his attention to the local news that had just ran. Nothing, however, stuck out to him as particularly important, so he checked the national programs. There he saw the news that a powerful candidate, in the upcoming presidential election, had died of natural causes. Oh, did he fall while going up the airplane? Oh. They said that he had his election in the bag, too. Talk about bad luck. Still, I don't believe this directly concerns your section, General. You didn't have anything to do with this, did you? What do you mean? It's not just him. 35 financial bigwigs, big-time mass media personalities, and even leaders of major lobbies died suddenly of accidents or natural causes yesterday afternoon alone. Every one of them had a fat pipeline to the White House. Oh my god, based? 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 Autopsies concluded beyond a shadow of a doubt that the deaths were accidents or natural causes. That has some people thinking that this coincidence must have something to do with magecraft. With the timing, it's only natural to suspect a connection to your ritual. The general informed Faldius in a tone that said those doubts had not been assuaged. He sighed deeply, then abandoned his businesslike manner. I haven't reported to the president yet. If you have any connection to the ritual, if you figure out any connection to the ritual in Snowfield, contact me ASAP. Faldius has thought about that day, which would later go down in books and urban legends as America's cursed day. Then, as the result of independently looking up the times and places that the 35 people had died on the net and connected them on a map, he determined they were centered on Galvaroso Scladio's headquarters and linked in the order of proximity to it. It was almost as if an angel of death had set out from Scladio's headquarters and walked around killing targets in the order that it found them. Faldius was not big enough to look at this and say Hassani Sabak can't be involved with certainty. He was also not shameless enough to pretend to have not seen it. He did not know whether the all-important Galvaroso was dead or alive. Even if he was dead, it was clear that the Scladio mages would conceal the fact for some time. Hassan, where are you? And what are you doing? At that point, it struck Faldius. This ritual was no longer confined to Snowfield. It had begun to spread its curse to the entire United States. Also, that Francesca had probably hoped that it would from the start. As if to kick the shocked Faldius while he was down, the announcer on the news launched into a hurried announcement. This is a follow-up to the weather report. Observers report that the low-pressure system that formed in western Las Vegas is currently rapidly increasing in force and has transformed into a massive hurricane. In the satellite image on TV, he was able to confirm an enormous hurricane more than 800 kilometers in diameter. There is no precedent for such a development. In Death Valley National Park, a sandstorm its projected course is a beeline for Snowfield. It really is going in a straight line, isn't it? Is something like that even possible? It's almost like the hurricane has a will of its own. This is no time for jokes. It began to flow, a chaotic whirlpool of information. Faldius instinctively picked out the facts, looking half resignedly up to the ceiling and muttered, "Who's doing this? Which faction? What the hell are they trying to summon to this city?" Snowfield, 20 kilometers above ground. Hurry up now! The gigantic airship that served as Prelati's workshop. This is Philia. Standing atop its balloon portion, Philia stared at the sky far to the southwest. She continued to nod in satisfaction, watching a mass of clouds visible on the curved horizon. Even taken from a global scale, it was gigantic. That's the way. I pulled you from a branch that doesn't seem like it connects anywhere. But it shouldn't be a problem for just a little while, right? I mean, the me in that age should just barely be able to use her authority. Okay, I know what this is. I think I know what this is. Then she held out her hand to the mass of clouds, hundreds of kilometers distant, as if I know exactly what this is! Looking at a cherished pet, and spoke as if addressing it directly. Don't worry, I won't start anything until you get here. We'll all get our revenge together. Her expression was a smile, and it was utterly devoid of any human quality. In a sense, It held a terror exactly the opposite of Bastilot's. And as she directed it downward, that smile expressed an unspeakable desire to kill on that pair of rude ingrates. Okay, I know it. So, I'm gonna say it because I know exactly who this is, okay? If you don't want spoilers, or if you don't want to hear, I mean, I might be wrong, but I'm gonna say I'm like 95% certain I'm right, okay? So, like, I don't know, maybe click ahead if you don't want to hear, but I know, and I'm gonna say it because I think I know. Okay. Skip ahead like 20 seconds and you should be good, okay? This is 3, 2, 1. So this is Ishtar, and this is her stealing it from Fate Grand Order. Because the whole thing about Ishtar not having the bull, that's like, it's because it's right here. This is her stealing it. Holy shit. And the ingrates, that's Gil and Enkidu. Okay, well, sounds good. Okay, I'm just gonna give a few more seconds for people to make sure that they know that we are out of spoiler time in case they wanted to skip. And okay, so Francesca's workshop. That person on top of the airship's been acting kind of scary. Don't mind her. She's glaring at the two on the ground, not us. Although Prelati's words soothed her. Okay, so it's the other way around. Francesca puffed out her cheeks in a pout. Oh, I wish she'd just lay off the unjustified resentment and go somewhere else. Going up against a broken goddess's data would not be fun at all. Oh, well, here we go. It's okay, never mind. It's just saying it. Okay. No need for spoiler warnings. She just says it here. Unaware that she was being complained about under her feet, that thing that had possessed Philia's body being called out to the hurricane far to the west in tones of what almost sounded like self-pity. Once you get here, I'll restore you to your proper shape. Look forward to it, Googleana. There we go. It's Ishtar. Okay, I don't need to worry about spoilers because she says it right there. So okay, so again, I knew that there was an Ishtar somewhere in this, and so when they said that there's a goddess in this body, I'm like, I think I know who this is, and I was correct. All right, we get some info here. Gender unknown, Saint Graph is male, chaotic evil, no strength, not much endurance, bad agility, but great magical energy, great luck, great noble phantasm. Illusion. A. Disciple of spirits, proof that is ingratiated in magecraft by certain lake spirits. Divinity E. Shares the blood of a divinity, but the divinity is banished with his rank is low. Barely manifests at E due to a combination of traditions that link Prelati with Beelzebub. Whoa, that's interesting. Okay. Noble Phantasm. The sunken spiral castle does not exist, therefore there is no end to this world's madness, grand illusion. That's the one idea. Legends that Prelati revealed the form of Beelzebub to sworn friends, or that he or she is the incarnation of Beelzebub, combined with the art of illusion and lineage that Prelati originally possessed, sublimating Noble Phantasm. It is great magecraft that surpasses even the environment to see the very texture of the world, capable of causing the target to hallucinate that Prelati has imprisoned them in a reality marble. It is still an illusion, however, and lacks the power of a reality marble. Because it takes a form of a demon that humans envision as their own natural enemy, it inflicts particularly effective damage on humans, okay? And we have Textbook of the Sunken Spiral Castle, Prelati Spellbook, unusable. The result of Prelati utilizing magecraft while dispelling their own rationality with drugs Prelati compounded themselves. Against astronomical odds, it ended up linked to a place one must not link to. Prelati inscribed the truth of it in a blank Bible that was a mystic code and sealed the link himself. Prelati was therefore incapable of reproducing it and trusted a spellbook capable of opening the one and only to a knight who was their sworn friend. That there is Gilles de Rey. Prelati can never use a noble phantasm unless the knight returns it on a spiritual level, but will that day of their reunion ever come? Maybe in FGO, I can't see anywhere else. Lattice-Guard, whoa! It's all except noble phantasm, tuned by the transformation. That's really interesting. Varies, neutral evil. Thousand faces. Ability to transform into any human occupation. Animal. Oh, animal also, or object. I guess so, yeah. Has been presented as a true... that has been presented as a true identity of Jack the Ripper. Okay, it has to be one that was what he could have been. And to make use of any skills it target possesses, weakened to rank E. Walker of Foggy Nights, an alternate form of the skill Murder on a Foggy Night, which Jack would possess if manifested in another class, grants the existence of block presence as long as it is night. Mad Enhancement, because Jack's fundamental attribute is madness, an inversion occurred and the skill is sealed. That seal is extremely unstable. Okay, so evil fog perishes within dawn from hell. A plus to E, anti-personnel 1 to 80. Based on the theory that Jack the Ripper was a demon, this noble phantasm transforms him into a demon in the sense of a phantasmal species. Because rooted in latent fear and unease in nearby people, its power changes in proportion to the population density within. Oh, wow, okay. That works good in a city, but not in a wasteland. In a desert wasteland, its strength is only equivalent to that of a large beast of prey. In an urban area, displays the power to that of a martial servant. Natural-born killers. B, anti-army. Based on the fact that Jack the Ripper was a group, enables the creation of multiple bodies according to the Master's magical energy. The last remaining body automatically becomes the main body. Cool. It kind of works like the double cherry in Mario. We said that every body is the main one. The maximum number depends on the Master's magical energy. Number of bodies decrease in proportion to the strength of the entity transformed into. All right, Afterword. Contains spoilers. Read afterwards. So, me. You know how you said I'd wrap things up in 5 books? That was a lie. I knew it. I just wonder how you didn't realize that in book 3. I'm so terribly sorry. As a result of my wanting to write a fleshed out episodes for all the factions instead of just the main 3, as a result of my playing the 7 chapters and final chapter of FGO. Okay, so we're past FGO, right? The plot has gone on considerably longer. When this volume only got up to the halfway point and I was supposed to cover in volume 4, I went, huh? I filled up a whole book's worth and ended up in the predicament of putting preview scene from the end of the last volume in the end game. My lack of foresight and the weakness of my mind, which gave in the desire to write Jack and Haruri factions as fully as Ayaka and co, instead of having them exit early in the cause. And so, I sincerely apologize to people who just thought, but I thought it was, I bought it because it was supposed to end in 5 volumes. I'd appreciate it if you bear with it for a few more books. Oh, no, it's 10 now, right? Now to the people who've read it. I hope you understand why I wait until after clearing FGO Chapter 7 to write. Yes, it's about her. She's been there since the plotting stage. Some time has passed since one day Nasu-san told me, oh yeah, she's going to appear in FGO Fuse with Blank, so take care, but I wanted to actually see her in action. Oh, I'd heard that she's a horrible being who doesn't understand the human heart, so I was thinking of making her a minor hysteric, but it turned out she's actually a good character, even if she's fused with Rin, right? Can I really kill her off quickly? No, I can't! With something like that, I started revising characters and ended up adding a lot of plot. Since I'm being charmed by her qualities and character raising her to a strong in-game, I've gotten all fired up. Her raw personality not fused with anyone, adding Tosaka Rin and Lubia Jolita, divided by 2 and subtract most of the humanity. See, simple, right? You say that so casually. With new anime, FGO Extra, and more, the Fate series continues to produce new works. This is one of them. That bears a strong impetus to write to a spin-off author like me. I enjoy the laugh and tear-filled stories of the Unlimited Blade Works anime, FGO, and Extra games. At the same time, while I have nothing to do with games and so on, to me and Sana-san in our positions as spin-off authors, there are occasions for nervousness and heavy breathing. Blank Sen tossed a new setting detail in the script this time, and it's so interesting, so I can't complain. SN Casters, Stay Night Caster's Master, was a middle-aged man of medium build that A-turned guy's an oil baron, damn it. Damn it, the setting, bring me the setting. If that's how it's gonna be, I'll make a real Bakano out of it. It's here, Narita. Ready-made details that I'm sure even Nasu-san's forgot about. Well done! In that spirit, we spent our days making progress with our work while fussing and occasionally conspiring with Mashin-san of Himuro no Tenshi. Wish that this could be allowed to be translated. They keep asking it to not be, and that makes me sad. I've even messaged them on Twitter. Reconciling with the setting was hard work, but generally worth doing. Regarding well-known modern mages, they may no longer be mages in Type Moon World due to concealment of mystery, so don't let what Damas says confuse you. Saint Germain? Ha ha ha, deception. By the way, I suspect the phrase Wallachian Knight in this volume may have caused some people who follow other Type Moon works to think, huh? Some of you have already been confused with the phrase 27 ancestors in previous volumes. Okay, this concerns one of the parts that makes Fate a completely different world, even though the outcome is the same as in Stay Night, so I'd like to keep an eye on further developments in the Fate world. Yeah, so it's basically saying it's connected with Tsukihime more, right? About Fate casters, episodes, and other characters. I generally consult biographies and reference books. When there's discrepancy between so many sources in the text, I'd appreciate it if you decided I was exaggerating the story and laugh it off. Thanks to the editor from a bunch of stuff, Team Barrel Roll, who did the servant background research. What a name, right? Sanda Makoto, who worked with El Malloy's lines, gave endorsement of the rapper. Thank you very much. Mori Shizuka-san, who has found time in her busy schedule to produce wonderful illustrations. More importantly, Nasu Kanoku, who created Fate and provided me with editorial oversight, along with everyone at Type Moon, everyone on the Fate Grand Order staff. Thank you very much. Once Crunch is over, I'm going to go play Horizon and Zelda. Ew, Western games stinky. Get out of there. Get out of there. March 2017. We're like catching up a bit, right? I mean, we're kind of off, but we're catching up. We're catching up. Damn. Damn, this is a good story. So let's see here. So yeah, now we can sort of come back and sort of see, right? We see the Pilates. That's the captain, I'm guessing, right? We got Philia. We got B girl, right? Haruri. Yeah, so yeah, I mean that's Sigma's design is not changed much for the anime, which is pretty good. And Assassin there. This has been really good. We will be moving on with chapter 5 sometime soonish, I think, like volume 5. Sometime soonish. I kind of rushed this because I wanted some content to sort of get ready before I move back to Canada, and this is pretty easy content I can just throw up there. So we'll be looking at some other stuff probably before, right? I've at least one more thing planned to do with my time left in China before I go fly back, but it shouldn't be one that's too much of a concern. But otherwise, thank you all for watching, guys, and we'll see you with some more Fate stories and other content like that in the future, and be sure to stick around for Strange Fate Volume 5, coming decently soonish, right? Decently soonish, at least. We'll see you guys then for that. Ciao.
Yo.